hiring the right person for the right job, that's where it begins. Are you qualified for this role? And does the individual want the role? Then it becomes the employer's responsibility to make sure the employee is set up for success, that they're not overworked, that they have a clear understanding of their goals and objectives, that the culture supports that, and that there's room for human experiences to happen. Things are going to happen in our personal lives that affect our ability to work. We're not going to be able to be killing it, so to speak, 40 hours a week every 52 weeks of the year. It's not possible.
Welcome to Authentic Energy, a podcast dedicated to getting to the bottom of what it means to be your true, authentic self at work. I am your host, Wendy Brand, a former corporate executive turned transformation coach. Let's take this learning journey together as I meet with guests weekly to learn how they've managed, or not managed, to find the elusive boundaries and success in their career and what it really means to find balance. I am so excited to bring you our next guest, Jessica Harris. A leader in integrative wellness for nearly 20 years, Jessica Harris began her career at one of the first ever integrative wellness clinics in Chicago, and it was there that she learned the deep impacts of a self-care practice. Jessica ultimately received her integrative wellness certification through Donna Karan's Urban Zen Foundation. There, she studied with top doctors, nutritionists, yoga instructors, Reiki masters, and Buddhist Zen monks to learn how to help individuals integrate these practices into their life. She has also worked with some of the world's top musicians, actors, and influencers to bring transcendental meditation to at-risk populations. And this was through the David Lynch Foundation with CEO and world-renowned TM teacher Bob Roth. I met Jessica after I had gone through the 12-week Intensity program this last summer in 2022. This program really was the catapult that set me on this new path of awareness and understanding for what it means to reconnect with my true self, or as you'll hear from Jessica, my highest and best self. Jessica is the founder and CEO of Intensity, and she started the organization because she saw a broader need for tools and resources that help people lead more holistic, fulfilling, and satisfying lives. She recognized both individuals and corporations were looking for personalized and customized wellness plans that would incorporate the fields of functional medicine, nutrition, psychotherapy, physical fitness, coaching, and other wellness practices. She's now committed to helping as many people as possible connect with their true selves and live a life of well-being, joy, fulfillment, and satisfaction, recognizing that this way is possible. I am so excited to share the goodness of this conversation with you. I hope you enjoy. Okay, Jessica, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this. I would love for you to just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came up with the concept of Intensity.
Yes. Well, Wendy, thank you for having me on. We are huge fans of you and the work that you're doing. So it is our pleasure to be here. My pleasure to be here representing Intensity. I wish I had some big, glamorous, fancy story about how Intensity was birthed, but the truth is I really and truly feel this is my purpose in life. And from a very, very early age, I think age 10 is my earliest memory of working at a hospital as a volunteer. I was the youngest volunteer there, and immediately knowing that helping people is my destiny. And at that time, it really meant medical school and becoming a physician. And as the decades went on, this idea of providing a virtual space that caters to each pillar of an individual's well-being, and then creating a program that's backed in, evidence-based, science-backed, that we can really use proven scientific methods to help people and shepherd them along their well-being journey, is kind of what it morphed into. And here we are today. It's fully launched. We're in 12 cities around the country. Have several clients, and we're now just kind of moving into the corporate space. So I'm just very, very happy and fulfilled by Intensity.
Awesome. Well, I'm a huge fan. I attribute the work that I did with Intensity to really helping to get me to this point. I remember specifically when a friend of mine had sent me a link for Insensity, and she said, "This is something that I'm looking into. You should look into it too." It was one of several seeds that were kind of being planted with me to start to look at my overall well-being, not just my health, but really my overall well-being. And I remember I called you guys, I signed up, and I got the intake form, and I was traveling for work. I was on the airplane, and it was a pretty intensive intake form. I mean, it was asking some pretty thought-provoking questions. And I just remember that I had to stop. Like, I couldn't do anymore, because what it was bringing up in me was just, I think of how far away from my true self I had just gotten so far away from where joy and happiness was for me, that I couldn't even stand to look at the intake sheet anymore. So it took me a couple nights at a hotel while I was on my work trip, to finally finish it and get it through. But it was so impactful to me to go through that journey and really, I think, come back to who I was meant to be. And so one of the slogans on your website is, "Everyone deserves to live a life in alignment with their true self." And that really resonated with me. And I'm curious, what does that mean to you? And why do you think that's important for us?
Well, thank you for sharing that story, Wendy. I had no idea some of that background, and the whole team was just so enamored and impressed and inspired by you. So it was our pleasure to serve you in that way. And we thank you for sharing your story with me and with us. I always felt that Insensity meant instantly that you were reminded that everyone has their highest and best self, just like we have our lowest self as well. We all know, or we're kind of familiar with what we behave like when we're feeling our best and when we're not. I wanted to remind people that came across our website that it is everyone's right to have access to their highest and best self. And some people don't feel that that's possible or that they're worthy of it. And they're just being human, that we as humans have those kind of feelings like, oh, that's not for me. That could never be for me. I could never get there. And it's just not true. It's everyone's birthright to live a life in optimal wellness and well-being, and really whatever that means for that individual.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Thank you. And I think really figuring out what that means, like to your point, for every individual, and for me, figuring out what that meant for me took some introspective work, which I probably will always continue to do. But I really wanted to figure out what some of the things were that had kicked me out of alignment with my true self. And I have somewhat of a clue. I mean, some of the decisions throughout my career, why I chose maybe certain jobs or certain roles, maybe, based on money or a title. And I have learned through introspection that really the jobs that I took that I made that decision based out of, this is what brings me happiness. Those were the jobs where I feel like I excelled the most. But when I chose a job for money or a title only, and it didn't bring me joy, and I was thriving after the wrong things, I don't know. I feel like maybe that's something that kicked me out of alignment. But have you, just with your work with your clients, seen a common thread of what brings people into awareness, or simply really how do they come to Insensity?
I want to respond to one thing that you said, which is that it's an ongoing journey. Yeah. And that is, you are always going to be trying to connect with the highest version of yourself, because we're gaining more insight as we age, as we experience things. So it's attainable, but we're not perfect. So we're never going to have it completely figured out, and then progress stops. There's this Buddhist Zen analogy and symbolism where the circle ends is where the other begins. And that's just indefinite. But I would say a common thread between people that come to Insensity is they're ready. What you experienced with the intake form, where you had to take a minute and pause, that was you experiencing the great resistance to betterment.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to overcome that because you were ready to overcome that. You felt enough within to get, to face that. But that's not easy, as you know. So the individuals that are ready for that are the ones that see Insensity and immediately sign up, because it is that one-stop shop, and actually a system that actually works and helps them and meets them where they are. Sometimes it's a really fast journey, and sometimes it's a very slow journey. But the point is it's a journey. So the common thread is that people are ready, and they understand that there is going to be work involved. Sometimes it'll be really great work, and sometimes it's going to be really difficult work. But no matter what it is, the role that we play in that part is being able to provide resources no matter where you are.
And I don't know that we've really talked about what are the different components of Insensity for those that don't know it. So like I had the therapist, I had yoga, the transcendental meditation, physical fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the core diagram, if you will, for our program are the 8 pillars of well-being. It's occupational, spiritual, environmental, physical, mental, social, emotional. And so our program is really based on that wheel of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
The 12-week program really begins with the most important ones. For instance, we're not able to help you find a new job, but we can counsel you in occupational well-being, but that's not really a part of the course. So the things that everyone learns or experiences in the individual program are, we first begin with functional medicine or physical well-being, because there's such a gap between conventional medicine and functional medicine. For those of you that don't know about functional medicine, it's a specialty within conventional medicine, but it's rooted in science and evidence, and there's 25 plus years of data on diets and the microbiome and supplements and how to really optimize you based on your personal genetic makeup and your current symptoms and how certain foods affect you. So we always take everyone through that journey first. And that involves an extensive blood test, as you know, where we look at sugar and inflammation, how well all of your systems are functioning. And then from there, create a customized plan to bring you into optimal well-being if you need that. Then we do transcendental meditation, because everyone wants to learn to meditate, or most everyone, but no one really understands how. And we support transcendental meditation because, again, tons of science and data behind the actual practice itself and its impact on burnout and fatigue, and optimizing your prefrontal cortex, which is the CEO of your brain. But we find that when people have an actual teacher that is dedicated to them for life, and actually trains them in meditation and is there for questions and refreshers, it doesn't get better than that. So TM is a part of our program. And then we do move through the other pillars. So physical well-being, movement is everything. And so we want people to have the ability to meet with a personal trainer and receive an evaluation. A lot of people have their own fitness routine. It's definitely not meant to replace that. It's really there as a resource for you. We have hundreds of videos and yoga routines and, just all kinds of stuff that are available to the client. And then mental well-being is really one of my favorite parts of our program, because I think there are a lot of key and core, concepts like parts of self, concepts that have been in our psychology books for decades, that just, unless you're a psych major, you studied in college or you do it for a profession, people just are unaware of. And so you have a lot of people walking around with imposter syndrome, for instance, and thinking, this is just me, I'm the only one that experiences this, rather than really understanding that the majority of our population experiences this. And there are some key core concepts within psychology that fall into that space that we want to make sure everyone's educated on. So it's really mental well-being coaching. And then if someone wants to undergo therapy, then we're able to facilitate that for them. If you have childhood trauma or any just unworked something within you that's creating a wall, we want to be able to offer that individual the resources to work through that.
It really is a complete, the complete wellness, I don't want to say package, but it really did allow me to look at every area. And I would say, and I imagine that for everybody, it's different, right? Wherever they are in their life and what they need. The functional medicine was, a phenomenal experience for me. And then the transcendental meditation, which, I'm still doing, right? 6 months later, I've really loved it. And I think the reason it really was special for me at the time was I was in such a stressful job, and I couldn't quiet the noise in my head, and what it brought me was that, like, all you have to do is 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, if you can. And to be honest, I really just kind of got into the 20 minutes in the morning because it was what I could do, and just that quieting. I learned too that you can't quiet the thoughts. You don't need to quiet the thoughts, but they're always going to be there, but just to allow them to flow through. And the instructor that we had gave a great analogy. He said, when you do meditation, especially this version of it, that it's like someone comes in and like cleans out the trash in that 20 minutes, like just cleans it up for you. And I found that really to be true. So really all great, great components that you guys have. From a corporate perspective, I'm curious, obviously I came to you as an individual. Are there things that you're doing with corporations, with groups in a corporation, to work with them on wellness?
Yeah, so that's actually the next population that we're going to be serving in 2023. I could talk about this on 4 podcasts with you, this topic alone. What you experience with burnout. Everyone feels what you do, even in a positive way. Even it doesn't have to be negative where you're burned out because you're constantly working against yourself. You could also be burned out from the things that bring you joy. It's sometimes a minute by minute effort, and sometimes it's daily, and sometimes you're really in a flow and, it's less effort. But no matter where you are, we're all susceptible to burnout. And within the corporate space, pre-pandemic, employers, the idea of well-being from an employer standpoint was that it was the employee's job to ensure that their well-being was maintained and taken care of. It wasn't even a consideration. And now it is essential that the employer takes responsibility for the employee's well-being. And it's really this shift, because before, and I think it's very much so still the case, but what can you do for me? ROI, it's work, it's not home. So don't bring personal into work, don't bring work at home. That's not realistic. We spend more time, and we used to, not so much these days, but more time at work than at home. And we're human beings, having real experiences with our colleagues, with our managers, and things are going to come up because of that. And if it doesn't start with the employee and really first hiring the right person for the right job, that's where it begins. Are you qualified for this role? And does the individual want the role? And that's really where it begins. Once you have that, then it becomes the employer's responsibility to make sure the employee is set up for success, that they're not overworked, that they have a clear understanding of their goals and objectives, that the culture supports that, and that there's room for human experiences to happen. Things are going to happen in our personal lives that affect our ability to work. We're not going to be able to be killing it, so to speak, 40 hours a week every 52 weeks of the year. It's not possible. And so It's a space that's really ready to be disrupted. The one-stop shop for well-being is essential in many of the Fortune 500 companies. They have anywhere from 15 to 20 different partners that they work with to provide a benefits package to their employee, which is very overwhelming. For the employee, it's also not effective because it's not cohesive, it's not holistic, and it's not really getting to the root. The practices that you experienced, Wendy, in our individual program, because there's so much science and data and research behind not only the modality itself, but the behavioral modification behind that, even just having a health coach, that position in of itself, you have these people who are nationally board certified as your personal coach, trained in behavioral modification. So you're not really being told how bad you are or how off you are. You have a friend and a companion that's listening to what you really want and to really what you're able to do. And from there, helping you achieve your health goals. Well, when you start from that place, you're working from the root. And that's just the individual. Then you have to think about the culture of the organization and providing a framework and structure for that culture of well-being to be maintained in the everyday setting. So it's a quite complex topic. There's a lot there, but it's also really, really exciting. And perhaps at a later time, we could, maybe devote even a full podcast on corporate well-being.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Have you read this or have you heard of this, the Burnout Challenge?
I have heard of it. I have not read it.
I bought it. It's a great study and they've been doing this research for years. But one of the other things they talk about is workload. And that's another piece of the organization, corporate and responsibility is not just right person, right job, but workload as well. So I love that. And I love that you guys are getting into this space because it is needed. And, I definitely take ownership for my responsibility in my part, how I burned out. But it is going to be interesting to watch over the next few decades how organizations evolve in order to address this. So I'm glad you guys are on top of that. Now it's the fun part. Now I get to ask you some fun questions that I'm asking all of my guests. So what's one thing that you do in your life that brings you just sheer joy?
Playing with my children, like really being present and having quality time with them, and date nights with my husband.
Love it. How old are your kids?
4.5 and 2.
Oh my goodness. You've got your hands full.
They're babies. Yes.
How fun. Great ages. And if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, like 5 or 6-year-old self, what would you tell her?
It's a great question. Probably to put joy first.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Okay. And so I love to travel. It's the thing that excites me and brings me joy. Something about experiencing a change of scenery really invigorates and motivates me. Do you have a favorite place you visited, and what would be on your bucket list to visit?
Oh, I love this question. I also love to travel. I actually have the travel bug now. I don't know if we'll be able to scratch that itch, but one of my favorite places that we've been to was the Loire Valley in France. My husband and I both are very much into wine in an appropriate amount.
Yes.
But this particular region in France, you're visiting some of these vineyards that have been there for a very long time, and they're so unpretentious. In many cases, you only have 2 or 3 people, but they've been in the family for generations, the same family, and the wine is amazing. And it's just a really amazing, like down to earth experience. So definitely one of our highlights for places we visited. And then bucket list, I have to say it's Africa. Doing a safari. Yeah, absolutely on the bucket list for sure.
I love it. Australia is my bucket list.
That's a great one.
Yeah. And Vietnam, we went to Vietnam with the kids about 7 years ago, and that was probably the most interesting experience. And the kids were teenagers and they were not happy because the cell service was bad.
Of course.
But I think they look back on it now and with fondness. So that it was incredible. Okay, I think that's it. Jessica, I am just so happy that you were able to join us. Can you tell the audience where they can find you, how they can find Inzensity?
Yes. We're Inzensity.com on social media, where we are at Inzensity. And if you have any questions, just email me directly. It's Jessica Harris at Inzensity.com.
Awesome. And we'll include some show notes and your contact information as well.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, Wendy.
Thank you, Jessica.
Okay.
I am just so impressed with the work that Jessica and her team are doing. Here are my takeaways from our conversation. Number 1, everyone has a highest and best self, and it is everyone's birthright to have access to their highest and best self. Number 2, working toward that connection to the highest version of yourself is ongoing because we gain more insight as we age, as we experience things. Access is attainable, but never perfect. Number 3, the road to betterment requires work, and sometimes it's really great work, and sometimes it's difficult work. Number 4, burnout can happen not just by doing things you don't enjoy, but also by overdoing the things that you do enjoy. No matter where you are, we are all susceptible to it. Number 5, it is essential that the employer takes responsibility for the well-being of their employees. We spend more time working than in our personal lives, and we are human beings having real experiences with our colleagues and with our managers. Number 6, responsibility of the employer on the employee's well-being starts with ensuring they are hiring the right person for the right job, making sure the employees want the job, balancing workload, setting clear goals and expectations, and creating a healthy environment with room for human experiences to happen and a culture that supports that. Number 7, creating a one-stop shop for well-being is going to be essential for Fortune 500 companies. We need to move away from 15 to 20 providers in the wellness package toward a more seamless experience for employees. Number 8, in order for well-being to be maintained in an organization, it must be integrated into the culture. I hope you've enjoyed my conversation with Jessica. If you would like more information about Inzensity, you can visit their website at inzensity.com. That's INZENCITY.com. And if you have a specific question or want to continue the conversation with Jessica, you can send her a note at jessicaharris@inzensity.com. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast and share with anyone that you think may enjoy it. And if you really liked it, please rate it and provide a review. If you want to reach me directly, you can find me at wendybrandcoaching.com. I would love to hear what you think about the show or work with you directly if you're looking for someone to partner on creating a life at the intersection of success and happiness.